Mike, I thought I was gonna saddle up here so we're all together. I don't
Oh,
know if
yeah,
you
no
wanna
worries. I'll scoot over one.
keep everybody together.
You guys ready?
Yeah, we've called the meeting to order. And so, I want to check to see if we have a quorum.
Oh, yes, I will call the roll. Mr. Sasso.
Here.
Mr. Evans.
Here.
Mr. Los.
Here?
Mr. Robinette.
Here.
And Ms. Tanja McCoy.
Yes, we have a quorum. Okay, the next item of business is the approval of the February 24th meeting minutes.
Move to
No,
accept.
March 6th meeting minutes.
I move to accept.
Second?
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
That's aye.
Just helping.
I'm sorry, I was thinking Kelsey was gonna do that for me today.
I think the chair does that. I'm
Oh,
staff support. So,
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. All right, it's different in
Keep
every
it
meeting so
moving.
far. Okay, well, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The meeting minutes for March 6th have been approved. And we are going to move on to our meeting agenda. Hope you guys have all got a chance to take a look at that. And at this point, we're ready to go into the golf cart recommendations to take forward to the commission. And that statement that we came up with in our last meeting, and which was in the meeting minutes, is what we're recommending that we move forward with.
I have a question if I can.
Yes, go right ahead.
Are we talking specifically the map of the city, or are we talking the rules that go along with the map? Or
Okay, let me pull up the map. So this is the revised map that Kelsey was so helpful in getting us set up here. Why is this not rotating? I need a 7-day free trial.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to do this too.
Okay, we'll just look at it like this. It makes sense anyway. Let me see, I can definitely make it smaller.
I think if you just hit the arrow that's gray, it's kind of near the little trash can button, it'll probably rotate over to the right.
This one?
No, keep going, it's all the way to the right.
Further to the right, our right. Over here. There you go.
Yeah, that's the one that I hit, and I got the 7-day free trial notice because I'm not online. Yeah, I guess I can't get.
There are some changes to this map, I believe, is that correct? Maybe we should just highlight what those changes are so we can close the gap.
Yeah. So the only things that I changed on the map were, if you remember, or if you recall from the last meeting, there were green, red, and orange streets. I changed all of the orange streets to red because all of those orange streets were the connecting streets where you would have to cross a state road to access those, and it's a very short road. I also just changed this area, I think it's called East Cocoa Beach Causeway, up near Shepherd Park, because it's a one-way road, so if you turn on there, you couldn't get back to a green area.
Could you make that just a pinch?
Want me
So
to-
basically, the stub end streets, because they have to cross A1A, are no goods.
Well, that's not 100% true, because like right here, like just take Bahama, everybody knows Bahama.
Yeah,
That's a
yes.
sub in too, so sometimes there's a dead end street that's included, and sometimes there's one that's not.
And some of those neighbors reach out to me and showed me that they can get to other neighborhoods by going through Joe Ross parking lot and stuff like that. And then the other thing they want to keep open is there's a barricaded service road behind Maritime Hammock Park. So if we get this through, then
Oh, yeah,
anybody
yeah, yeah.
who says, I'd really like to get my golf cart through there can negotiate that. Really, it's a case of taking one bullet out, and they'd be able to get
Right,
through.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you just pull that up that way a little bit? Maybe that's too small. I guess my question, and I keep coming back to it, is these stub ends down here on the south end, even though you have to cross A1A, is there a reason why you have to? Why we can't make those accessible even though they have to cross A1A? You can walk across, and then you can ride your bike to this end of the stub end. But the way that's
This is for golf carts only.
oh, that's right, golf carts. I'm sorry. I'm thinking electric bikes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I remember now.
Okay. Yeah, so before there was more sub ends, and I advocated, way up here, I don't remember the name of that street, well, they can run up and down and visit their neighbors, but some of these neighbors did explain that cutting behind veterans and all this, they are connected. They wanted me to advocate that.
Yeah, and like Maritime Hammock Park, we can do that. Just have to make it clear it's straight across and not into the park.
Yeah, so let's, in my opinion anyways, get the expanded area out and then wait for feedback. And then if those neighbors say, just pull one bollard, we can't get a motor vehicle through it,
Right.
then we can try to negotiate that with the city or.
Yeah.
So by this being so small, can we just go ahead and identify them, and Kelsey, you put them in the notes and update the map?
Identify what?
Yeah, I just.
The ones that we want to take out of the red, because everything that's green is what they will be allowed to ride a golf cart
I
on.
think what he was saying, right now, we pass it as it is.
Oh.
We get that feedback based off of what's still red. If,
I'm happy with
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
I think
okay.
if the owner on the entity said, hey, you left me out. I mean, number one, they're not gonna care, that's Kabord and, I know they're running golf courses between those businesses anyway.
Right. And I
Okay.
think people are gonna be using them, and it's kind of like most anything else. If it's a problem, they're gonna call and raise hell about it. If it's not a problem, it's not a problem.
And then one thing that I would add is the group emphasized expanding the golf cart network. So like Byron saying, there's some connectivity between these roads, but if it's a road where it's not really a network, it's like your driveway, you know what I mean? It's just,
Right.
it's like a small little road, where are you gonna go anyway?
Right.
So I just kind of adjusted the map based on what you guys said at the last meeting, and then just made 2 colors rather than 3 to avoid confusion.
Yeah.
I think good with this. Go ahead.
I'd like to, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we quadrupled the golf cart area.
Yeah.
And then if people want it on Tulip and all the other stuff, well, they're going to expand.
Yeah.
I have two thoughts. Tanya, unfortunately, could you scroll that back down? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Back to 520. Okay, so first question is, okay, I can see the red here. I can understand that logic. Same with this. But this, Banana River Boulevard goes through. What makes that road different than these other crossings?
What road?
Banana River Green.
It is
Right
right
there,
there.
across the,
But this is red, but this is green. This, of course, lets you go north and south of 520, but
Yeah.
that's as dangerous as these other roads.
Yeah, so my thought there was just to have some connectivity. I think on the north side of that road there, at that intersection, there's restaurants, that's a destination that you could go to. And then on the south side, I think there's also things there.
There's service roads on both sides of 520 that aren't being represented there.
Yeah.
They're not, I don't.
It's just that even
I
though,
think it'd be too hard to put it in there. You'd have red over green.
yeah.
I think that they're DOT roads.
So the red is just saying that we gotta have a sign there saying they can't go across the road.
You're saying it better than what I said. I didn't say it properly. What I saw is a golf cart can go green right across the road to green.
No.
To me, that's clearly red.
Yeah.
Okay, this is clearly red. This is clearly red, but green and green, I can go across that.
Well, I think that's where the signage is gonna come in, right?
Okay.
South, up, going north, up to that service road, and the same way going from the north south, and then it stops right there at 520, you can go across.
People choose to break the law, and they will. That's on them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can do that. It's distinctly different than all this other stuff because this is, red, and especially when you get into the south side of town, it's just red all the way through. So it's not like this is good, this one isn't. You gotta pick and choose. Here, it's different. no. That to me looked like yes, but we're saying it's no, so I'm okay with that, because I didn't think that was smart either, so that's fine. The second comment I wanted to say is that, you know, these streets right here are stub end streets, and they're all off limits. And with a fair degree of certainty, are we sure that all the other stub ends which are green, they have some connectivity? Now, you're saying in some areas, Byron, that there is connectivity. So these are red, some of these other dead end streets are green, and there's connectivity. Are all the stub end greens connected, or only some of them? Do we know that?
At the last meeting, I didn't care, because if your street's 1,000 feet long.
You were saying they go house to house?
Yeah.
House to house.
Right. Now, I did hear from some of the people that own low-speed vehicles or golf courses back in that area, and we can't represent private property.
Yeah,
We can't tell them that they can run through Joe Ross Realty.
yeah.
So, and I know I'm rehashing what we've already discussed, but basically, if the only way you can go to any other street is to cross A1A, your street's off limits.
No, that's not what we got there.
Well, I mean, here, if I wanna go from there to there, why can't I do that? The only reason I can't do it is because I'd have to cross A1A to go to another street, right?
Well, I feel they should be green, but I'm not gonna hold up the process right now.
Okay.
So if we get it out there, I know with certainty they run golf carts on Manning,
Yeah,
because I've seen Dick and them running back and forth from business to business.
I guess my only concern with that, and I understand what you're saying, I don't disagree, my only concern is, I'd hate for somebody to get a ticket, all of a sudden, some cop says, well, you can't be on the street, and all of a sudden, somebody gets a ticket, or a warning, at the least, they get a warning, and then they're complaining about it, and then we gotta come back and change it.
I prefer that they be green, but we went round and round on this, and then suddenly there's 5 times more golf cart area than there was a month ago.
So can I just remind you guys what, and maybe this was my misinterpretation to make this, so at the last meeting, the task force suggested expanding the golf cart accessible streets to streets posted at 30 miles per hour or less as allowed by state law, not allowing state road crossings at this time. So to me, that statement does say like all roads posted under 30 miles per hour, so if you guys want me to, I can change these stub-in streets to be all green, that's no problem, that's a quick process, if that's what you guys want, your suggestion.
Can we accept it to be amended as noted?
That's what I was gonna suggest,
Yeah.
just,
Me and
Make
Tom-
that motion,
Amend.
I'll second it.
So,
Okay.
but I think it would be important for us, that's why I was saying, can Kelsey just write down the ones that we're 100% saying we want to change to green, that are red right now?
before we make a motion, can Byron, maybe can you point out some examples of what we're actually talking about?
Well,
Give a street.
Okay, if we're gonna do it right, we start out with, Kelsey, mind taking notes?
Yep.
West End Road, Pinellas, Surf, Manatee,
So
Seminole.
all in the red.
Well, it's gonna stop in a minute, in my opinion. Diplomat. Maybe that's Fisher Drive.
That's like Fisher.
Yeah, Fisher Drive.
Let me go up here just to make sure, okay, yeah, we didn't.
That's the word. What's above Tulip? I've never even seen that. Ivy? Looks like ivy and tulip. Now, when you get down here, I agree, those could stay red, because now we're tempting people to cross A1A. There's not even driveways on some of these streets.
Right. I agree with that.
So you turn those green, and then it's exactly what, not Mike, John said. Now they're dying to cross a state road. If you weren't here last time, golf carts cannot cross state roads without all sorts of hassles.
You wanna introduce yourself? Actually, he's from, Cape Canaveral. No, not this guy.
I'm the senior planner with Cape Canaveral, so we just did this and got a study from Kimley Horn.
With that we watched.
We saw your presentation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I'm just here, we're doing a meeting with Port Canaveral on Monday about micromobility, so I think,
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to
Thank you
that.
for being here. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, if you guys have any questions.
So I don't know if I can make a should we might as well throw in
On that last one down there.
River Falls Drive.
Yeah.
It's funny because there's a whole bunch of private developments. Oh, that's the disputed area of Cocoa Beach. The never will be Cocoa Beach area, according to Lincoln Waters.
16th,
So should we keep them out? No, I'm
it's
just,
stopping at 16th Street.
So can I make a motion that we accept this map
And I'm gonna second,
as amended?
as amended, and I'll second.
Is it too late for discussion?
No, after you make a motion and
Okay.
a second, then it opens the discussion, okay?
I'm just afraid with very short stub-in streets, where there's not 100 houses, that making that green, and there is no connectivity, like Byron, you're saying some of those other places, there's connectivity. It's almost inviting somebody to go out into A1A. And I know that it's red on the map. I know it's
We're
red.
not talking about these stuff in
I understand, that we're talking about the ones that Byron read a minute ago.
Okay.
Some of those are very short streets, very short. And you can't go anywhere.
Can you
And
scroll down?
there's no outlet. I'm just, before we vote on this, I just want to make sure, are we creating a trap where somebody that can only go 100 feet or 200 feet is going to say, well, I got to get somewhere. I got to get out on A1A or ride the sidewalk. I can ride the sidewalk in golf carts, right? And I can get out of my trapped area by riding the sidewalk. It feels like we're encouraging somebody to break the rule. Now, I know it's red on A1A, but we're almost asking somebody to break the rule.
I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, to me, it's almost like a freaking draft, right? Like, that is the law, that is the rule, don't do it, but people are always gonna take advantage of it. I know plenty of people that are gonna wanna drive 2 or 3 houses down, my in-laws are gonna want, I mean, they do it all the time.
Yeah.
Right around, to be able to drive 2 houses down to their friends, hang out for a little bit and come home.
People on my street, you go from one end to the other on my street.
And
just to go
I
visit.
agree, I think there's always gonna be those folks that push the envelope, that try to break the rules. We can't prevent that, right? I mean, we laid it out, these are the rules. If you don't follow them, you're gonna pay the
And
consequences.
here's the other thing, to answer what you're doing, I think from time to time, I think the city, like on our email program and other things, can put out reminders, big red letters, golf carts, do not cross A1A. You know, just put it out there every once in a while, remind people. And I think those kind of things help a little bit, you know, but I think telling somebody they can't go from one end of the street to the other, if they don't have to cross a state road, is punishing them because of the knuckleheads.
And I'm on board 100% with that. I don't want to penalize those people because it stands out like how come all these other streets got it and the street that I live on doesn't? But the difference is Bahama is an extremely long street. Everybody knows that street. It's probably a quarter mile long. Some of these other streets, I want to make this up, it's an exaggeration, but it's from that wall to that wall.
Right.
Where am I going in a golf cart from that wall to that wall? Where am I going in a golf cart? Now, Bahama is extremely long. I can see, okay, I'm going 500 yards down the road, I'll stop at my buddy's house, but if it's a short street, we are asking somebody to ride on the sidewalk.
well, I think
That golf cart's going to ride on the sidewalk.
Ivy
and
might
you
be,
can get around.
Ivy might be an issue.
So I
What's
just
that?
looked up, Ivy is actually the road like that you drive into Lori Wilson Park, so I think that's a county road, so that one would not be included.
Okay, we'll take that Ivy off.
But I think also maybe a lot of these folks, I would imagine, at least some of the folks on these short stub-in streets probably don't have golf carts right now. Okay, we pass this and say you can't get a golf cart.
Yep.
They're gonna weigh that factor too. Do I wanna be able to buy a golf cart and drive 50 feet down here?
Because I didn't even
I think
know that.
having that choice, I understand what you're saying, I think it's one of the things, if you're gonna do it for one, I think we do it for the rest of them.
Yeah, if we're gonna accept Holiday Lane,
Yeah.
and somebody calls you from Surf Drive, how are you gonna explain
Yeah, and here's the other side, if it gets to be a problem, it gets revisited and corrected. I mean, that's one way to do it, or signs go up, or any number of different ways to try and make it work better.
Or we doing like an annual or biannual basis, try to incorporate some type of study or look at ways to increase connectivity, I mean, try to phase that in. over
Yeah,
time.
I think that's
Those
important.
Stub-in streets that you
Yeah.
can't do it all now, but, 5 years from now.
The
we'll look
next
at that.
phase may be turning this into Satellite Beach's LSD law, then you can cross A1A.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and
there
then
you go.
also some opportunities to see where we can add connectivity would be to allow those people to get into some of those other areas that they're near.
Mhm.
I mean, I'd rather expand the access than
Take it away.
take it away. I mean, that's kind of, because we were just talking about Key West. People are driving golf carts and motorized vehicles electric vehicles everywhere, including on, US one and,
Yeah, their law reads you have to in some portions.
yeah.
But it's just like the e-bike thing, and I've actually started minding my manners because everybody on a bicycle blows red lights, stop signs anyways. Then you start doing it on an e-bike and you're going 25, 30 miles an hour. Now everybody's bitching about it, and I'm like, okay, I'm on this committee, I'm gonna stop at every stop sign, just like somebody's gonna get a ticket on a golf cart for going down the bike path, and word's gonna get out, don't do this.
Yeah.
Now, later on, if we go to the LSD law, it's gonna fix that problem. And I wanna stand by my motion, and any other discussion is appreciated, but I think we need to keep the ball.
And you've already got a second, so.
I think as amended, with whatever streets are not,
Yes, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I have a list of streets, can we just review them to make sure I got them all? And I have a question about Tulip. Tulip is only Student Street parking? Is that one that you would like to,
It's only what?
I just pulled up Tulip.
Oh,
It's only parking?
that's right, so that
There's
would
no-
come.
But
Okay, good.
there's that new
Yeah.
development coming up on Tulip.
There's also
West.
a condo on the very end of the street on the left-hand side. There's a
But do they have access to Tulip?
Yes, they're on Tulip, their parking is on Tulip.
Oh,
Well, I think somebody just advocated to leave it alone, that's the way I interpret his
Because we
comment.
have that new Weston coming in there, and I think they're gonna give us some additional connectivity. I don't know if golf carts will be allowed, but that's the only
well,
reason
they
I
may
didn't
be able
mention
to run
Tulip.
the golf carts around in the parking or getting from one place in Westgate to another too, so that might be, I'd be okay with leaving that one open.
Okay, was just a question. So I have West End,
Which is way up there, Tanya. West End, yep,
okay? Pinellas,
yep,
Surf,
yep,
Manatee,
yep,
Seminole,
yep,
Diplomat,
Roger,
Fisher Drive.
got it.
Ivy is not included. That's a county road into Lord Wilson Park. Tulip and River Falls.
I never knew that was called ID.
I didn't know either.
All these years.
That's the amendment
Okay.
that I'm making a motion with a second.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been out there.
so I'm gonna,
Yep.
I'm gonna help times out. All those in
Okay.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Was that an aye or a nay?
It was an aye.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's aye. It's-
And so this is our statement that we're going to take to council at the next council, commission meeting. I keep saying council because I'm from that. But we're taking this to the next commission meeting, and it states the task force suggests expanding golf cart accessible streets to streets posted at 30 miles or less as allowed by state law, but not allowing for state road crossings at this time and as depicted on the map. So the map is what we just discussed. Okay. With that done, we're gonna move into e-bikes. I know that's what everybody's been, go ahead, John, you had a question?
I'm sorry. In my mind, we just solidified the map, and it was nice that it was a 4-0 vote. We had our discussion, we all voted it yes. There's modifications that'll make it better. So I'm okay with that myself. However, I still feel we need to revisit the safety component of this, because what we in essence have done is taken a pilot program that seems to have been successful, and now we're taking it almost without limits to the entirety of the city, with the exception of 1 or 2 streets, and you can't cross A1A. It's basically the entirety of the city, but everybody else that has done this has introduced some regulation, some control on the vehicles. There's annual registration, there's inspection, there's different aspects of it. So people have opened up their cities like we just did, but there's this overlayment of safety. In my mind, we haven't really discussed that. And our city ordinance that we have now doesn't address any of that. Whereas I think all the documents, Tanja, that you gave us, everybody else has all these other things. So in summary, I feel like we've opened this up for the city, which is a very good thing, but we've given a lot and we don't get anything back as far as public safety. And I think it's a give and take. We open the city up. However, there's going to be some rules here. And I feel like we haven't discussed that, so I would like to discuss that.
And we did discuss some of that and talked about maybe trying to incorporate some of that, I thought.
Yeah.
Yes, but what we're going forward, we're going forward with the map,
But not the other.
but there's
part.
nothing else. And I think the way we left it at the last meeting is we were going to defer to the police department and try to see what they said. I
Right.
think, Tony,
That's
you,
right.
okay. Now,
Okay.
let
Remember that.
me say something about that. I believe the police force is in a position where they cannot comment on this. They are waiting for the recommendations of this group. And once the recommendations are formalized, they are going to comment on it. But I think if we truly believe that we need to have some control, we shouldn't basically turn it over to the police and say, what do you guys think? If we think there should be some restriction, we should
Oh,
recommend it.
I must have missed the part on the, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm getting long-winded. It's just that we're ready to move off of golf carts, and I feel like we haven't addressed the safety piece.
Would it make sense to maybe, I know we talked about, I think it was Satellite Beach, if I'm not mistaken.
Satellite was one of the models, but we had about 6 others.
I guess maybe get a couple of those and do our homework, mark them up, bring them back and have a discussion about what we like, what we don't like, put something together like a rough draft that then the police could look at and go, well, this won't work because of this, or everything else looks good, or whatever they come up with. But at least that way we can come up with a rough draft instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
I'm fine with that, but I would recommend that if we're going to do that at a later date, that this is on hold until that's complete. This does not come out until that's complete.
I think we are just making recommendations to commission. So we are not having the final say on this at all. This is just a recommendation that we're making to the commission. And I apologize because I forgot the second sentence, which says the task force stated that the most important thing is safety and suggested education, proper signage be considered if the golf course accessible streets are expanded. And we can also add in, because I know we talked about the attorneys, we have that is in our meeting minutes as well. Whether the city attorney and the police force can weigh in on in regards to registration.
So quick,
And if they decide that they want to do a registration, and then at that point, we would look at how we're going to do that. And I think that would be more of a staff process where we meet with the police, maybe have some additional meetings with you guys and talk about what that registration is going to look like.
We'll beat you to it.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to rewind the tape and remind us what we went through last week. There's already state law on golf carts, and there's already state law on golf carts whether you can run them night or day. And a golf cart is different than an LSV,
Right.
low-speed vehicle. So in Satellite Beach, they got around all the FDOT restrictions by saying, have an LSV or convert it to a low-speed vehicle and bring it in to get it inspected, and we're going to inspect your 7 or 8 safety items. I'm not ruling that out. I think that's the next evolution of where we're going. The map was just voted on, unanimously agreed on, and whether it's a quarter of the city or all of the city at some point wrote an ordinance allowing golf cart use. We're just making it bigger, but I'm not going to quietly go into the dark that we now retract that vote. That vote is recorded, and that's where I'd like to leave it and move on until we bring up a new agenda item, which is inspection of LSVs and things like that, which I agree. The next step is going to be, what are we doing? How are we crossing A1A? How are we doing it safely? And I think Satellite Beach is the model.
Well, the point that I'm making is not to revisit the map. We voted on the map, that's done. That business is closed. You're talking A1A crossings, that's a future thing. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, we took a pilot program and we opened it up to the entirety of the city. We have magnified the risk 100-fold, and we haven't addressed the safety piece. We're just going to move on. And I don't think that's the right approach. Now, there's 4 people here. You guys can vote, you can say your piece. I'm one guy, and I don't think it's smart to open the entirety of the city up like the wild, wild west without some layer of control. And every document that Tanja has given us by our model cities They all have done that, but we have not done that. And I'm just saying, are we sure that that's the direction we want to go?
Let me, if I could, I guess the question comes up, we can do what we've, move on, leave it with staff, the police to some degree, and the city commission to look at. If they want to introduce something, I mean, I don't think staff is going to implement this without, and the city commission are not going to implement this without taking all those safety concerns and acting on them in some way or another. They may turn around and say, you know what, we want you guys to come back and do a little bit more. Or they may just do it on their own. So I think what I would suggest is trust staff, city commission to come up with a plan, to either do it on their own or throw it back to us and say, develop some more, we need you to do this, and kind of fine tune what they need done. And I'd be okay with that.
I agree.
And that addresses your concerns, because I think they will in fact deal with those.
Well, then why didn't we just let staff do this? Why did we even talk about this? This came to the task force. Why did we do this? The staff could do this, right? The staff is highly capable of doing this. I thought we were looking at the boundary map and the safety concern. I don't separate the two. The boundary map and the safety concern is one issue. We're making them two issues.
So can
I see them I see them as the same issue.
So the question that I have is kind of recorded in what the group has recommended. We have that the safety recommendation that would go forward to the commission would be to consider vehicle registrations based on input from the police department and the city attorney. Consider education as far as pamphlets and handing those things out with those registrations if we decide to go that way. If not, making this very accessible to anybody, all of this information. We looked at a lot of those great pamphlets last week. And then also the consideration of signage. So were there any things outside of that the group had discussed that we could kind of push forward with this map? Because I don't know if we're going to come up with concrete language here. I think it's just, considering registrations, education needs to be a focus, and then signage. That's what I got from last time.
Well, what we spoke about too last time was the state law that's already applicable. We're not going to reinvent the wheel and say, okay, we're going to take this down and now say, okay, you need to follow these rules specific to Cocoa Beach. If FDOT, or not FDOT, if the state is coming out and saying you can only drive a golf cart at this age between these hours and these hours, these are the safety requirements. We take that, adopt it as it is, and then we use that education piece to start putting that out to the city. I don't know if kind of drilling it down
That's my
specific is.
position. The state has already handled this. The state has
Even though you
posters.
guys voted on that map is not official until the commission
Correct, it's
says
just a
they're in
recommendation
agreement
to the
with it.
commission.
They may look at it and say they don't want the stub-in streets.
And when
We're
we
just
do,
making that as a recommendation.
right, when we do the other electric vehicles, there's going to be some overlap there on some of the safety and language issues. I'm sure signage, other things that are going to come up. So I think we're doing baby steps here, and I think once this moves forward, there's going to be more to be done, and it could be staff and commission, or it could be us. So with that, I'm ready to move on.
I'm ready to move on. The golf cart law has been out there, and not a single person has shown up and had a conflict with a golf cart. When we start talking about conflicts with bicycles, e-bikes, every hand in the room is going to go up. But noting that nobody has spoke out against them, there's already an ordinance on it. We've got an expanded area that is not 100 times greater than what it was. I'm ready to move on too, and then we can revisit as things evolve.
And that's not short shrift on your concerns. I just think they're down the road.
Yeah, I didn't say it was 100 times larger. I said the risk was probably 100 times greater. That's where the 100 came in. The
Yeah, I
risk was
didn't-
greater, not the geography was 100 times
Okay.
larger.
Okay, so
Okay.
we're moving on to current.
Madam Chairman, is this meeting being conducted under Robert's rules? That's what you said at the beginning of the first meeting.
More or less.
More or less.
Under Robert's rules, you should entertain public comment at the end of each agenda item, not just at the end of the meeting, and I would like to speak to this subject.
There you go. Okay,
Okay.
go for it.
Oh, you want to come up
I
here?
tend to agree with John on one thing that I was concerned about that was discussed last time, was reducing the age to 14 for running these cars. I think that is a really bad idea.
reducing.
We have to be responsible for the safety of Cocoa Beach citizens.
Who's reducing
It
it?
ought to be limited, running these golf carts, to licensed drivers.
It's defined by state law right now, Mike.
Yeah, I don't think we suggested reducing it.
Okay.
I don't recall
Yeah, whatever
that.
this, no,
I think the requirement ought to be licensed drivers, and here's the reason why. Even if they're 16, if they haven't shown proficiency in the rules of the road, they shouldn't be allowed to be out there driving and put the rest of our population at risk.
Or themselves.
Everything else
Yeah.
you've done, I agree with that. You guys are doing a great deal, but this is a really important point to me. So I would like that on the record.
Good.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind, any other public comment? Hearing that, if I could address that, if we don't have, if that's not in the language, I'd like to make that recommendation that it's in there, because I think, I don't remember us ever talking about reducing it, but somehow if that accidentally got in there, I think what Mike's saying makes a lot of sense, especially for the golf carts. You're talking about a four-wheel vehicle, it's not easy just to go around, it's not on the sidewalk, it's like right there taking up a lane of traffic. So I would like to make sure that that's a recommendation.
Okay.
Does anybody have an issue with that?
No, I think that's fine, and I'm gonna add on, I'm gonna tack on to that, Tony, is that there's some proposed legislation at the state level right now, so proposed doesn't mean anything, but there is actual legislation that would raise the age to 16, state level, because we keep saying state, well, there's proposed legislation to raise it to 16, and accompanying that is the fact that the minimum requirement of the operator would be a learner's permit. So not only is there an age limit, you would have to have some demonstration of skill through a learner's permit. You can't just get on the cart and drive it. Now, it's not a law, it's proposed.
Can we
but
just make that a recommendation from
the
us?
state is moving in that direction. The other thing is, I feel very strongly about this. I don't want to ask the police department, hey, what do you guys think? If I feel that we need some safety, I want to say it. I don't want to ask them, well, what do you think? If I feel we need it, then I feel it's my job to say it, not, well, what do you guys think? I'll listen to what you, I think we need to put some safety on this. Every document Tanja gave us has that stuff in it. I don't
Okay.
understand why we don't
I'm gonna
address
have to
that.
cut it short because then we need to get some more stuff done. We only have 90 days to complete this process in this task force. I think we've gotten the points that we wanted to make, and it's time to move on to the next subject, which is the e-bike.
Tanya, can I make one quick comment before you go away?
Okay.
The one thing is, some of you are aware that car boats
Wait a minute, Bob, speak up, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll stand now. They ought to-
Hey, guys, we got public comment, sorry.
We only have a 10-minute public comment for this meeting
Okay.
because it's a 1-hour
I
meeting.
understand. This is gonna be brief. Power boats require that you take a training course if you're under a certain age. This is the same sort of thing. Perhaps you could do a training course, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the powerboat one is online. But again, it's something or other that would give you a little bit of control over who's operating these things. I hear you on having an official driver's license to do this, but it might be wise, at least for the golf cart situation, to have some sort of a training certificate that you get online or wherever to at least educate these folks on the rules of the road. Thank you.
Okay, and Tanja, we had, somebody else had their hand up.
Yeah, I was saying, John, you said a lot of things about safety. Safety, you're not specific at all about what you're talking about, because there are rules, as Byron mentioned, there are rules on whether you're operating this golf cart during daylight hours or nighttime hours. So are you suggesting that our rules of the road be more intense than the state legislative amount?
No, I never got it. Go ahead.
And if so, what would that be? Because as I understand the commission, the first area, the trial area, that the golf carts had to have turn signals, lights, mirrors. You had to be 16 years old to drive it. That was my understanding. that could be different, and all that, is that not the case?
Nothing on that end has changed. We've not
Nothing on that
changed
has
anything. Nothing that we've done has changed that. All we've done so far is expand the area.
Okay. So there are safety concerns inherently
Addressed.
addressed already.
In state law.
So-
I'm not, Tim, you might be correct about that. I am not aware that we had a 16-year-old limit. I don't know that that's correct. You may know bit more than I do, but I don't know that that's accurate.
Well, I guess to his
And yes,
What am
and,
I, Tim asked me, what am I talking about? We never got to details. I just wanted to open the subject up. This is a subject we don't want to open up, but if I could open the subject up, I would probably have an age limit. I definitely would register the vehicle at some city facility, either police or whatever. I would probably have annual renewals like you do on your vehicle. And there would be an inspection that tells the operator that you are either a class 1, 2, or 3 golf cart, because there's 3 different levels of golf carts. Now, if we don't like that, that's fine, but almost every other city has done that. Again, we are going down a path that is very much different than everybody else. So you and I can disagree, but you're really disagreeing with every other city, actually. So I'm ready to
And
move.
we haven't made any changes. We don't have the authority to make any changes. They have to go through.
There are already safety concerns
I-
addressed.
These items have to be brought before the commission. Once we make our recommendation, that's what we're doing here. We're making a recommendation, taking it before commission. I'm sure that the commission will be addressing all of these, and you guys are welcome to come to those meetings as well.
I
Tanja,
think that's not responsible. You need to have these things ironed out before you go to the commission.
you know what?
We don't-
Guys, I'm just
Matt
gonna,
came into the very first meeting and said.
Okay,
"We
I'm gonna
need
ask you to stop,
listen
sir,
to me.
because
We
you've
need to
already had
have
your public
liability
comment time.
insurance. We never got it incorporated.
Mike,
You've already had your public comment time, so please stop.
Tanja,
Yes.
we've made a recommendation. Could we, in order to move on, could we just ask, after this meeting, we have other meetings lined up, could you come back and let us know very specifically what the safety issues, what the safety situation is now, what rules, regulations are out there, come back and let us know, and if they need to be tweaked, to let us know that.
Yes,
And
sir.
then we can readdress it at a future meeting. Because
Yes.
I hear the safety, I think we all are concerned about safety, but we're kind of digging in
Again,
a
I'm
well, we don't
taking
even know
this
what's
to
in there.
Our
right now.
next commission meeting, I will be taking what we have so far. I'm sure that I'm gonna get some recommendations from the commission as far as what additional items they would like to see as well.
Okay, but would you also let us know
Yes.
what's already there and whether or not it needs any tweaking or not?
Yes,
As far as age limits, this, that, or the other?
because we haven't written any code. So
Okay.
we haven't gotten there yet. We're
Okay.
nowhere near that point
Just
yet.
building the overarching framework now
Yes.
to kind of guide us.
Yes.
And
All right,
There's no code that has been
Correct.
written.
just to move on, to be clear, we've
Okay,
heard
so-
everybody, just to move on though.
Closing that portion of the meeting, we're moving on to e-bikes and scooters. Micro-mobility devices is what they're called in the state statute. And I've sent out quite a few handouts for us to take a look at. First thing I wanted to look at is what is we reached out to the police and fire department, and they came back with a list of items that, incidents that took place with e-bikes and scooters. And these incidents they dredged their database for e-bikes and scooters, and they looked in multiple different ways. And so far, they were able to find 2 incidents with e-bikes and 3 incidents with scooters between 2021 and 2023. And this is exactly where these incidents happened. There was an e-bike or a scooter involved in the incident, but it was made very clear that it was all these incidents did not involve pedestrians. It was mostly a single vehicle loss of control type incident. And I think there was one where the bicycle lost control and ran into a car.
And these are the ones that are official that we know about.
Officially that we know of.
And I will just say that we also, I know, and I think I can share now that we're all together, there are others. I mean, I know personally, downtown on Minutemen, somebody came out of one of the businesses, walking out, got hit by an e-bike, and ended up in the hospital. So, and I'm sure there's probably more of those. They didn't do it.
So
officially.
I'm not sure if that was registered as North Atlantic. No,
that wasn't
none of that.
registered at all.
Oh, it did not. They didn't do a
The
report.
lady did not do a report.
Oh, okay, right. Well, yeah, that wouldn't have been in this
Right.
record.
So that's what I'm saying. There's probably a handful more that we were unaware of.
Okay.
So,
So that being said, we have between 2021 and 2023, we've been able to identify 5 incidents. So I think we should keep in mind the frequency as we go through this process of regulating e-bikes and scooters.
I'm shocked. So, I mean, everybody's had a close call. I don't think anybody's denying that, but I'm really surprised it's only 5. So, good.
And I don't think that the entire issue is just the incidents or accidents. It could be how they're storing them, you know, all of that thing, all of those type of things we can look at. Because I know you sent me that article about Paris, and it looks like they had a problem with people just kind of tossing them on the sidewalk. And, you know, how are you utilizing our sidewalks? How do you pass people? So I think that's what has come up so far in the language that we've currently been reading on the e-bikes, and what is the discussion is more a lot of, you know, the fear that other people have. How are you passing pedestrians on the road? What speed are you on our sidewalks? And the state law has already stated, and I know we've kind of all read through those documents, that they have to go no more than 20 miles per hour. So I'm sure I've seen some actually moving at quite a bit faster than that on some of our city streets.
could we, you know, some of what what you and I have talked about, and I don't know if it's been shared or not, but I know there's other cities and towns that have already done this. And I guess what I'm wondering is, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, I mean, we were just talking about Key West, and Key West has, a couple of years ago, they initiated it, and they since have reviewed and updated their e-bike stuff. The 15 mile an hour speed limit. You have to pass, I think it's on the right or left, I think it's on the left. Pedestrians have the right of way. There's certain places where you can ride them and certain places where you can't, and that includes sidewalks and bike lanes and streets. If you're on the street, you got to obey all the street laws. If you're on a sidewalk, there's a different set of rules: the speed limit, passing on the left, and a couple other things, I think. But I guess my point is.
Well, I wanted to start off our discussion looking at state law, because that's what, and federal law, because that's what's going to guide our process. We need to start with those higher offices so that we can at least know what's out there and what they have presented to us, what we need to follow to start off. And then and that's why I pulled out all of state and federal documents that I could find, and that's what I sent to you guys for reading for this particular meeting. I have scheduled 2 more meetings. The next meeting will be ordinances that are more local that we'll look at, and then final meeting will be when we are discussing how to put our ordinance together, similar to how we did with the golf cart. We kind of started off with a broad picture, and we got it down to how do we want it to look here in Cocoa Beach. So this is how I'm going through this same process again, and I think we can get it done in the next 3 meetings.
Okay.
So we're starting off with state law, and they've actually gone through a lot of this, and we've talked about the fact that they have identified some classes similar to what they did with the golf cart ordinance or law. And then we can use that information when we're crafting our legislation or ordinances. So if you guys have had a chance to review these documents, did you have any particular information that you wanted to discuss at this time, or should I just move on?
Well, the one thing I want to mention is that e-bikes are bicycles. That's, once you lump them together,
Treated the same.
then it's really, really hard to separate them. And that's fine, because you should be stopping at stop signs, you should be courteous to other people, pedestrians and all that. But if anybody, and I'm surprised we didn't have somebody in the audience advocate that we should outlaw e-bikes, that's one of the things people have been telling me. It simply ain't happening. There's millions of them in the United States, and the state recognizes them as it's a bicycle. Boom.
Yeah. And I think they have some very good use, because as our roads get more populated and we get stuck in some of these traffic jams, having a different way of moving transportation wise is good for people to have those options. And so how do we create that option here in Cocoa Beach?
Yeah, and I think we're all here. I mean, I think we all realize these are, it's green transportation. It's good, and it's growing. It isn't going to go away, as Byron said. So I think our job here is just to make it work so it's safe for the riders of the vehicles as well as the pedestrians and the rest of the community, and that's the bottom line.
Yes. And I think that's what has been so far with all of the ordinance and federal and state information that we've read so far is mainly we want to look at safety again. We already see here in Cocoa Beach, we have some issues, but they're not as big as you would think they are, considering some of the speeds that we've seen on our sidewalks. But then we got to talk about signage. How do we address signage to make sure that people know what the speeds are, kind of like a posted speed for our cars when we're driving down the road? We know what speed we're supposed to be doing.
Well, signage and education. So there's the local community that we can reach typically in one way, and then there's the renters of these vehicles that we need to go through the folks who run those businesses to make sure that they're educating their guests. And those are two kind of different things that we've got to look at marketing, really, on how to market to them. So once we come up with whatever we've got to look at marketing, and then also, I think in this case, much more so than with golf carts, we've got to work with the police force to make sure that we're all working together so the community gets educated and understands what's going on. And I think that's going to be, everything I'm reading and every other community is dealing with this, that's the biggest thing. They come up with 3 or 4 different safety things, but the bottom line is, how do we make sure everybody, one, knows, and 2, is being enforced?
Right.
And I think one of the bigger hot buttons in this whole subject is sidewalks. We don't have to talk about it now, but the sidewalks, that's where everything interacts at the sidewalk. That's the intersection of everything.
Well, so, and I agree and I disagree. The sidewalks are key, especially with pedestrians, but we all know back in the neighborhoods, we see some of the kids riding them on the street, and they're not stopping at stop signs, they're wigging around. I almost hit a kid the other day while I'm driving who just ran right across, didn't even slow down or look. Yeah. Might have been 13 years old. You know what I mean? That's scary.
It's very scary. And that same thing can happen on the sidewalk. That exact same discussion could be the sidewalk.
Exactly.
Right.
So, yeah.
So what I'm going to go through right now is how the state has classified the bikes. So Class 1 bicycles are equipped with a motor that provides assistance only when the rider is pedaling, and that ceases to provide assistance when the e-bike reaches 20 miles per hour. Class 2 bicycles equipped with throttle actuated motor that ceases to provide assistance when the e-bike reaches 20 miles per hour. And then there's the Class 3 bicycle that's equipped with a motor that provides assistance only when the rider is pedaling, and that ceases to provide assistance when the bike reaches 28 miles per hour. And then also they talk about the fact that the state Florida Department of Environmental Protection allows Class 1 e-bikes wherever traditional bikes are allowed. some state parks may restrict e-bike access on mountain bike trails based on local discretion. So I think that's some of the things that we should look at as well. Is the class 1 bike, can we treat that as a regular bicycle? Because, you know, some people do need assistance as they're riding. They may not be as physically fit as others, so they may need some assistance, but they're pretty much riding a bike.
Are we able to I mean, state law is saying that they're treated as bicycles. I think it's saying that what we could do is kind of restrict areas
Yeah.
where they can go versus saying this is not a bicycle, this is
Yeah,
a
and
bicycle. I mean,
that's
it's all,
what I'm saying.
Yeah, to me, it has to be treated the same, whether it's a pedal bike or
Right.
one with power.
And so-
It's all the same problem.
So
Yeah.
the question though is, and if I'm not, I could be mistaken, but correct me, bicycles are, in the state of Florida, are allowed by statute on sidewalks. So that class is allowed on a sidewalk.
Right, so e-bikes are allowed on sidewalks.
That would be up to us to decide if we want to allow those, because we can identify where we want them to be allowed.
Okay, so anything over 40 inches by FDOT standards is a multi-use path. But I don't think is it Sergeant? Corporal, are bicycles allowed on sidewalks?
Yes, sir. So if there is a bike path, they're supposed to take that first.
Okay.
If there's no sidewalk available, they can use the sidewalk.
Okay, so along A1A where there's a bike path, they should be on it.
They should be on the bike path.
Okay. Scroll down just a second to the. Okay, quick, which one is a class 1, 2, or 3? I can't tell. And I can punch a button and my 3 will be a 1 or a 2. So if you start trying to separate 1, 2s, and 3s, ain't happening. And I can punch a button and roll up to a park ranger and say I'm a class 2. And as soon as I'm out of sight, I can punch another button and be a class 3, but I personally am not engaging asphalt at 28 miles an hour. I gave that up in my 30s. So, I mean, there is a very real reason to slow these things down, but if you try to separate 1, 2s, and 3s, our local constabulary is going to give up on us. They can't do it.
Yeah.
So maybe in that regard, we can look at saying if it's a e-bike and it's on a sidewalk, they can only go a certain speed.
That's what they do in Portland?
Yes. Key
And-
West.
Yeah.
You know, probably, I think St. Pete or somewhere over there, and Pinellas County's got that set up.
I was driving next to a guy on a high-tech bicycle and he was going 38 miles an hour. If he impacts you, it's no different than an e-bike going 38 miles an hour.
Yep.
The typical bike speed, and I've actually ridden alongside, people in our age group pedaling a bike are going about 7 miles an hour.
Yeah.
The kids are going 12 to 15.
Key West is 15 miles an hour, and I think that's on the street. I don't know if that applies to the sidewalk or not.
But it
can
boils,
find out.
with slower speed, you've got better reaction distance. If there is an incident, a lot less kinetic energy, which is a word I was just dying to use here all day long. It boils down to figuring out where and how to regulate speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And can I just add, and courtesy of, especially if you're coming up behind a pedestrian, you have to let them know you're coming. Whether you're dinging a bell or passing on the left, you got to tell them, because that's a huge problem. I walk a lot and all over the state, and whether it's a bicycle or an e-bike, it doesn't matter. If somebody's coming up behind you way faster than you're walking, and all of a sudden they're whipping by a foot away.
Now,
it's
didn't we
dangerous.
know that back in the 50s and 60s and 70s? What happened?
My generation ruined it, I'm sure. I'm sorry.
We weren't going 21 miles an hour, you know.
Okay. But we would still had our little bell and we couldn't wait to ring it, right?
Yeah.
Ding, ding, we
Yeah.
coming by. What happened to these guys? Now
What's
we
the-
gotta regulate that.
Tanja, a point of clarification, the state law does not prohibit e-bikes from being on sidewalks. Is that what we're saying?
They're treated the same as bicycles.
Yeah.
The same
Bicycles.
Yes.
thing you can afford to a regular bicycle, you're affording to an e-bike.
But you can
Okay.
regulate all wheeled vehicles to X miles an hour.
Right. But the state law does not preclude a local municipality from having their own rules. Is that also correct?
Yes,
Okay. So if the state does not prohibit sidewalks, if we had a sensitive area in our own city, then we could take some sidewalks off if we chose to. Now, when we talk about it, we say the state law allows it, so that's like a done deal. But I think what it says is they don't disallow it, but they give the local municipality the authority to make up their own mind. So I would like to say that maybe not all sidewalks are going to be allowed, or maybe they will be, but it's not like it's out of our
Right.
power. It is in our power.
Well, and that's one area I'd like to get legal feedback on. If our city attorney thinks that we can do that, then that helps us address, so like downtown, Minutemen. I mean, it's crazy to be riding an electric bike around on Minutemen in downtown on that section right there, especially when it's crowded. So there's certain areas where you might want to reconsider that. There's other areas, like we were talking about on A1A, even though there's bike lanes and you're not supposed to ride on the sidewalk. I know for me, on a bicycle, I'm gonna ride on the sidewalk.
It's dangerous.
I'm sure as hell not gonna ride
Yeah.
on A1A.
Yeah.
People going 45 miles an hour. Yeah, I know, it's 35, but. So,
Okay, guys,
can we get a legal opinion on that?
yes, we will, Kelsey will put that down, and I will reach out to our city attorney to get a legal opinion on that.
Can you clarify what exactly you wanted a legal opinion on? Are there just certain areas that can be restricted?
I think, I think,
I think I started this.
yeah.
Okay.
Can a local municipality restrict e-equipment on sidewalks? Yes or no?
And or bicycles, for that matter.
Well, yeah, I think like the
Same
real,
thing.
the root of the question, I think, is can you separate the rules and regulations we're gonna have for e-bikes versus a typical bicycle, since under the state law, they're treated as one and the same?
Well, that's one.
That may be
But-
two.
but
There may be
to-
two
but to-
questions. There's two questions.
John's question is,
There's two
can
questions.
can we have certain sidewalks
That's good.
prohibited from bicycles and or e-bikes?
That's the only way you'll do it. State law says an e-bike is a bicycle.
Right.
It
So,
it says we can.
There's some
in the-
areas where you say no wheeled vehicles. Now, you're telling Miss McGillicuddy she can't ride her tricycle. So I'm not opposed to it, because when I get up to that area of Minuteman, I walk my bike.
Right.
Because you're absolutely gonna hit somebody.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna take that to the city attorney, and at this time, I'm moving on to, and I will have a public comment section after this, but right now, we're gonna figure out what date we are gonna have our next meeting.
I thought we had meetings scheduled.
I thought it was something about the 10th.
The next one that I have down is on April 10th,
Yeah.
which is Monday at 3:30. I know that is early. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, I thought we had,
Yeah, 3:30 to 4:30.
Monday the
on
10th, Monday the 17th, and Monday the 24th at 3:30,
Yep,
all
for all
scheduled.
three. Yep. I'm good with that stuff. Everyone is.
Miraculously, I'm good too. It's Navy-based month, and from Gitmo, I go to Autech.
Are you two good?
Put that in our meeting
Okay.
minutes, so we'll have
All
it.
right. Good,
Okay,
'cause I
so
didn't
we
wanna
have
have
that,
to, like,
and
change
now
my
I'm gonna
colors.
open it up for a 10-minute public comment section. And after that, the meeting will be adjourned.
Thanks, guys.
Madam Chairman, I'm really sorry that you've made the decision to stifle public comments during these meetings. Sometimes we have important things to add, and they're specific to the issues that are being discussed, and it will be timely to allow them at that point.
And I am sorry that you feel that way, sir.
Well, I will now finish what I was trying to say earlier. Matt Harrington came to our first meeting and said that it was important to get proof of liability insurance for the golf carts. That was supposed to be in the original resolution, and it didn't get in there. But he thinks it ought to be put in from a legal standpoint. Thank you.
Okay, good point. And you got that down, Kelsey, right?
Right. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I knew I remembered either being at the meeting or hearing it. I don't remember anyone before me, but back about 10 years ago, I tried to get golf carts to be legal to bring your own on the golf course. And that was kind of shot down because one of the commissioners just didn't play golf, didn't understand that, and just really had a tizzy over it. And so it kind of went away. Finally, so our city manager, Mr. McKnight, said, hey, this is a great idea, look what they do here, and he looked into it. So finally, in 2021, December of 2021, City Ordinance 1660, might want to write that down, 1660.
We've got a copy of it, thanks.
Oh, you have a copy of it?
Yeah.
Well, how about that? Because it says in there, I mean, did you read it? Because it says golf carts can be operated between sunrise and sunset. It must be equipped with efficient brakes, a reliable steering apparatus, safe tires, rear view mirror, red reflectors, warning devices on either front and back, can only be operated by licensed drivers that have a valid driver's license.
We never brought up 14. I don't know where that came from.
So-
Well, this is an education for me, because I didn't
It's
know that.
prohibited on bike paths, pedestrian ways, and sidewalks. They can only transport the number of passengers that they're designed to carry, and they must be properly insured based on standards set by the city. I
Okay.
think that pretty much covers it. So there you have it.
Well,
And
We're
that's
making
all,
adjustments to that, but there it is. Thank you.
that's very repetitive of state law. So all they did was codify state law.
And it probably helped that Jim was a golfer.
well, state law says 14, does it not?
I read both versions. I found it,
City says a licensed driver, 16.
period.
Okay, and Tim, thank you, because I didn't know that. I appreciate you sharing that. The state law says 14, so this is more stringent than state law.
See y'all tomorrow.
I didn't want to go into it. I found both versions of it, but it's 16
Bob?
licensed.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Bob Day, Troll Road, and I'm one of your crazies out there on the road. I put 7,000 miles on my bicycle last year. I'm up to 2,700 this year. So I've seen a few things that have happened out there. You covered a lot of people running stop signs, running stoplights, to say nothing of that. And e-bikes, while they're not all bad, there are certainly some bad actors that use them. Any case, one thing that I might suggest is that years ago, and this is when my kids were young, they had a bike safety course. I don't recall whether the school did it or whether the rec department did it, but that might be one thing to do it. And you might build it out so it includes adults, have some sort of a challenge or activities in that area. And again, you might even want to include the golf carts or low-speed vehicles in that sort of thing, and you have it an annual or biannual event, whatever it is, to get these folks going. And as I mentioned previously, again, some sort of a training situation similar to what you have for the powerboats powerboat license might be well worthwhile. Thank you.
Good idea. Good, thanks, Bob.
Oh, did Tim leave already?
Yeah.
I was going to answer Tim's question. The reason they don't want any other golf cart or LSV on the golf course is because they're different weights. And that's originally why it was shut down, because they didn't want to have to determine, mine probably weighs 2,000 pounds, the little lithiums out here are probably 1,000 pounds. And that's what I heard the reason was why you couldn't just pull up in your own LSV or e-vehicle and get on the golf course.
Okay.
But I'll share that with Tim later.
Okay, good. Motion to adjourn. Thank you. Thanks, Tanja.